A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Viewers, this is Imtiaz Naqvi. You are watching the program Roshni on Hidayat TV. As I always mention the format of program when I introduce, before the introduction of my guests, the format is to promote positive image of people with disability, to raise awareness about the services and promote positive health messages. From time to time, I also discuss community issues. Today, I have a guest from South Africa. This is the first time I have a guest from South Africa. I invited people from Pakistan, India, but South Africa is the one of the country that I never invited anybody on my program. So I'm really pleased to introduce Mamuna Chogle. She is visually impaired and she lives in South Africa, and she will tell her success stories during the program. If you would like to join, make a phone call, ask questions, or anything that you have to say, please call on the number that is displayed on the screen. There are two numbers. You can call on WhatsApp and landline number as well. If you're calling from UK, you can call landline number 0204 5402 If you're calling from another country, you can call me on a WhatsApp number that is displayed on. If you want to be a guest on to the show, if you have a disability, if you have made achievements in your life, if you want to share your story, please get in touch. You've got my email address on the screen, and you can either call me or leave a voice message or send me an email, and then I'll be able to invite you onto my show. So I'm now very pleased to welcome my guest, Mamuna Chogle from South Africa. Assalamu alaikum, Mamuna.
Walaikum salam, Imtiaz, and assalamu alaikum
Yeah,
to all your viewers. Thank you so much for
welcome.
having me.
Thank you so much for joining me all the way from South Africa. So the question normally I ask about your own life story. For example, being a visually impaired, I've got the set of questions that I want to ask you. So can you, now the first question is, can you tell me about your disability, please?
I'm visually impaired. I was born premature, weighing 680 grams, born at 6 months, and due to too much oxygen in the incubator, I got a detached retina. So I was partially blind all my life, and then when I was 12, I got my cornea cracked, and when I was 18, I got angle closure glaucoma. This is when I was in my second year of university, which led me to being completely blind. So right now, I am completely blind.
So you mentioned that you were born premature. That was what was the cause of the blindness? Can you
Um,
enlighten?
too much too much
Yes,
oxygen in the incubator.
right. That was the cause of blindness.
Yes.
So there was no cure once it was established
No.
that due to the
No.
yeah, okay. So how, yeah, you mentioned about how old were you? You did mention about this is the question I have. When you were diagnosed, you said 12. You were about
Um,
uh,
officially completely blind, I was 18.
you were 18 when you became totally blind.
Yes.
And how old were you when you were actually diagnosed with this condition?
When I was born.
When you were born. So they
Yes.
established straight away when you were born, and they knew that uh, you have a visual impairment.
Yes.
Okay. Right. The next question is, because I have a Braille machine, and what set your childhood apart from other able-bodied kids, and the challenges that you faced
I think
with
you always knew
with
you were
regards to your
different
education?
with regards to education, yes. So I think I always knew that you were different. And as much as the teachers, because I was in a mainstream school for the first 2 years, my grade one and grade two, and they did try and accommodate me, they did try and assist by allowing me to sit in front of the board, trying to make the worksheets large print. My late mom used to sit in the class with me to try and make my lines darker, things like that. And as much as they tried to accommodate back then, there was not much that could be done. And eventually, we realized that I needed to come to a school that caters specifically for visual impairment. And that's when I finished my grade two in the school that I was at, and then got moved over. We uprooted our entire life from Benoni, which is an area in South Africa, to Pretoria, where I currently still am. And that's when I attended a special school, Prince of School for the Blind.
So that was a special school for blind children.
Yes, it was.
And do they provide? Did they provide the the assistive technology, the equipment that you required during the education?
Yes, definitely. It was very accommodating. They had all the Braille machines, all the books. It was very protective, and they really went out of their way to ensure that people that have a visual impairment or that are blind receive the necessary education. So it was a very, very well run school.
So how many other children were at that school when you were studying?
In total, I think we must have been about 240 children. We were about eight children in a class, eight learners in a class. There was not more than eight.
So they were all visually impaired.
Yes, everyone was visually impaired or partially blind or had some sort of visual impairment.
So how did you find the yourself when you were studying in schools with other children who were also visually impaired, and how did you find when children get together, they play with each other, they have they're involved with various activities. How did you find yourself in that situation?
Well, if we go back to the mainstream school, it was difficult because there were many times there were certain things you were not able to do or could not be a part of, and that obviously made a person feel very excluded. But coming to the school for the blind, you completely fitted in, you were accepted, you were seen as a part of, and everything was catered to assist and to accommodate your disability. And then if we talk outside school in terms of family and friends, that was very accommodating because we all grew up together, so they knew how to assist me and how to include me in whatever game was being played.
So during your education, did the school provided you with a assistant? You mentioned about your mom was assisting you in the early days.
Yes, that was when I was in grade one and grade two in a mainstream school. That was when many people did not, people with disabilities did not go to mainstream. So, yes, that was when my mom was there. But when I came to the special needs school, no assistance was needed because everything was catered for.
So all the teachers were well qualified to teach all the children with visual impairment.
Yes, they were.
And then you mentioned the Braille. Did you learn Braille at the school where you were studying?
So when I moved to Pretoria, the school wanted me to go back 2 years, back to grade one, because obviously I needed to learn Braille. And that's
Yeah.
when my parents said, no, please leave me in grade three. And I did my grade one, grade two, and grade three in 6 months. And that's when I also learned English and Afrikaans Braille.
You know, the grade one and two. Can you tell me about grade three? Because I don't know about. I've learned grade one and two, but the I don't know about grade three. What is grade three?
No, no. Grade three is in school. The level of school was grade three, but in
All right. Okay. Okay.
Braille, I've done my grade one Braille in the same year that I had to complete the school syllabus. So I had to at the same time complete the school syllabus to keep on par with my classmates, but at the same time had to learn the whole Braille system.
So the number four question is: tell me. I think you also mentioned a little bit of it. Tell me about the challenges you faced with regards to fit in as as a child, and what obstacle you face making friends.
I think as a child, and also you carry it with you through life, is as a person with a visual impairment, you don't necessarily go up to somebody, and you only speak when somebody speaks to you. So sometimes you don't end up being part of a conversation, or somebody doesn't approach you, which makes you feel a bit left out or excluded or uninvolved because you're not able to judge the circumstance or your surroundings at that point. So, in terms of initiating contact, normally it would happen when somebody would ask me to play with them. This is when I was a child. And if they didn't, then you would be isolated, if you can say that.
And so, how go back to the Braille. How long did it take you to learn grade one and two?
Um, The school had it part of their syllabus. So the grade one Braille, normally the children know that by their first 3 years of schooling. I had to do that in the same year that I was doing my grade three of schooling, my third year of schooling. So it took me about 6 months to learn the grade one Braille. Grade two Braille continued as a subject in the school over a period of time. So it took, according to the school syllabus, that I finished the grade two.
Are, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, okay, I thought I just heard something, and I assumed that you might be disconnected. Okay, you know the when I'm reading Braille, and because I've learned it at the later age, I'm not fluent reading Braille. So how fluent are you? I've seen people reading Braille like sighted people read prints. So how fluent
Yes.
reader are you?
I would like to believe that I'm very fluent. I read Braille and I still use Braille on a daily basis, both English, Afrikaans, Braille. While we were at school as well, it was compulsory to take part in competitions and stuff where you are able to judge your speed of reading. So I think I'm quite fluent.
Can you give me some advice? How do I increase my reading speed?
I guess it's practice. I'm not sure. I think the more you practice and the more your hands go across the braille lines, the easier it gets and the quicker you recognize the letters.
Okay, we'll go back to the question. Another question: were you during the school? Were you easily bullied by others?
Um, are we talking about mainstream or are we talking about the special school?
I think I would talk about the mainstream.
Okay. So with regard to mainstream, I can't really say there was bullying, but there was situations where when I was on the board trying to be standing on a chair trying to read from the board because that's how close I needed to be, and then they would be like you in the way or come down, or where they would get impatient because I'm not able to do something. But most of all, when the teacher would explain, then there would be a bit of understanding and stuff. But it was far from equal treatment, if we can put it that way.
Okay, and if you were to bully, what did you do?
Most of the time, just tell the teacher and she would sort it out.
Uh-huh. So why do you think that there are uh, children who would like to bully others?
Because they don't understand. Like in my condition, they did not understand what blindness means. They were not exposed to it. You were different to others. So because you are different, and sometimes it's also a power struggle of I'm better than you. And generally, kids are trying to find themselves. So by the lack of knowledge and information and not being exposed, they would act in a certain way towards others.
What is the yeah? What is the general public assumption regarding disability or particularly blindness
In South Africa,
in South Africa, and particularly in South Asian community, and
I
both
think it's
indigenous,
yes.
yeah, indigenous and South of the
I think
South Asians.
very marginalized and very frowned upon. People are not exposed, so generally, people do not expose others to the disability or don't let the people with disabilities go out and interact. There's a sense of pity and shame, or
Mm,
even indigenous, it's where they hide the person with a disability, where people
yeah.
do not actually know what is a disability. And sometimes people see it as a curse, especially in indigenous, they see it as a curse that the person
Right.
has a disability. There's a very little information that they know about disability, and by saying this, they do not um, expose themselves to learning more. I can say to you, when I was at university, many people did not come up to me because there's this fear and the stigma about disability as well, and the fear of the unknown.
Well, I interviewed people from India and Pakistan, uh, and South Asian people in Britain, and I found that it was a stigma attached. People, as you mentioned, seeing disabled people, has you mentioned curse. Yeah, it does, our committee does see has a similar views about people with disability, and particularly with my personal experience, blindness is seen. I cannot explain that the people make remarks about myself, and I heard from other people who heard people talking about me. So it is surprising that even in 21st century, people are still seeing us we were in the older age, the previous
Mm,
many centuries ago. So I don't
mm,
understand why. Well, this is the reason I am trying to um, promote positive image of people with disabilities, so people can see themselves a role model who is talking to me. They are well educated. They are in profession. They are lawyers, judges. They are CEO. They are accountants. They are in many higher places. So this is what I'm trying to portray to our community. Do you have anything else to say regarding this?
I totally support the aim and the purpose that you have by doing this, because it is much needed, especially even if people with disabilities are educated and qualified, they are not always given the opportunity to fit into that role that they are qualified for. And like in South Africa, the unemployment rate within persons with disabilities is very high because of maybe not no reasonable accommodation or access to information, etc. Which why it's good that you create this awareness and drive this campaign to be able to empower people with disabilities, but also to create awareness amongst those without disabilities.
Yeah, well, in this country, the all everybody with any disability can work, and they are allowed to get some support from the government. One of the scheme is access to work, that they provide you the equipment that you require, whether in education or employment, or you need a personal assistant. They provide you a personal assistant. They pay the salary to that person, the assistant, and then if you want to travel, they pay the traveling expenses. So the people in this country, they can easily find the job, and they can claim all the benefits that they are entitled to.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So the one I was invited by the university, Bradford, and the lecturer I met. She was on the electric wheelchair, and I asked her where you come from. She said we have a twin city, is near Bradford, is Leeds. She said she came from Leeds, and I asked her, how did you travel? She said taxi, and she said the government pay the taxi fare for her when she traveled to a university.
Wow.
So
It's
does
interesting
your
how
go
it's how different.
does your government provide any facilities at all?
Yes, they do. They do give the disability grant
Right.
to persons that are unemployed or that meet the means test. But once you are employed, the disability grant falls away. And unfortunately, because the job opportunities are not as many for persons with disabilities, as well as many people with disabilities are not maybe not skilled or qualified, they end up being dependent on the grant.
Do you walk with the white cane?
Yes, I do.
Did you get training during the school?
Yes, while I was at school.
Uh, do you have a department that if anyone wants to learn the technique to walk with the white cane, do you have any department that help people to train how to walk with the white cane?
Yes, there are different organizations that do have mobility instructors that assist people to learn how to use the white cane, although resources are very limited.
Do people have to pay any amount, or is it totally free?
No, if it's through the organization and you're a beneficiary of that organization, it's free.
Okay. Right. Okay. You mentioned about university, let's move on to higher education. What did you study, and what did you study? Yeah, in your higher
I
education.
studied I studied social work. I did social work. So I have my bachelor's, my honors in social work, and a 4 year degree took me 6 years because, as I indicated in the beginning, that I lost my eyesight in my second year of university, and there were many challenges throughout my university career. And now currently, in at the end of May, I just qualified with my master's in law.
And what were the challenges you faced during your higher education?
um, Going from class to class, because obviously it's a bigger environment, getting your study material in time or in an accessible format, um, lecturers not understanding, students not understanding how to accommodate a person with a disability. I was fortunate that my parents were able to hire an assistant to help me run from class to class at the university, because it's a much bigger environment than what your school was. And here you don't have a time to feel yourself sorry. You need to run with however the many students are, because there you over 300-400 people in a class. The assistant was able to help scan books for me and assist me to read the material. Some lecturers were really good. They were able to give you the stuff, others just wouldn't. And you had to face harsh reality to will be done for you, and you need to fight your way through the situation to be able to get what you need to accomplish what you need.
So, so your parent had to provide an assistant during
Ye-
your
Yes,
higher education. So the
yes, they
university
did.
don't provide any. Do they do they do they provide any assistant nowadays, or they provide, if they didn't provide it previously, do they provide any assistant nowadays?
So previously there was a disability unit, but the services were very limited. And now there is still a disability unit, but I can't tell you what the support would be, because with my master's, I did not get any support from the disability unit. I literally did everything on my own electronically. I did not do Braille for my entire master's, and I managed to get through the masters with support from my fellow colleagues in my class that were doing the masters with me.
So when you completed your assignments, were you allowed to type on your computer and just send the assignments electronically to your course tutor?
For undergrad, no. For undergrad, we have to print it and submit it. So editing was a big issue for me, and my mom helped me a lot to edit the documents, as well as the assistant they hired for me. But within my masters, I had an editor that I had to pay to edit all the assignments and stuff like that for me, especially the thesis that I submitted. But that we could
So how
submit
did
electronically. So,
yeah, yes, go on.
yes.
So how did you find researching the relevant coursework from the library or online?
The university's website is relatively accessible, so that made it a little bit easier. In my undergrad, I would go to the library and I would ask a library assistant to help me, as well as my assistant would get the documents from some of the lecturers and scan them in for me. In my postgrad, it was a lot easier because technology has advanced so much that it made it a lot easier for me to be independent and to search for myself, to research, to do everything on my own. But I did
So
get help like from fellow students and stuff like that.
so So you were not able to submit your assignment in Braille,
No, there wasn't anybody that would be able to read it.
right? So the next question is, uh, do you think that your challenges far outweigh those able-bodied students?
The challenges definitely slowed me down, had an impact, and I had to work maybe twice or thrice as harder than an able bodied student to get to where I want to and to achieve the goals that I wanted to achieve. So, yes, I do think it far outweighs an able bodied student's challenges.
So can you explore a bit more? How can you give me any examples?
Just basic things like I said earlier, editing of documents or getting from class to class, socializing, because over and above just trying to fit into university and trying to follow a curriculum, trying to get your work made accessible, you end up facing challenges of, it's a whole new world, it's a bigger environment, it's you become more aware of your disability and how different you actually are to others, and how do you get accommodated, or how do you get the assistance you need because of your disability. And you also realize that, in school it was a very protected environment, and when you come to university it's very, very different.
All right. After your qualification, uh, did you join the workplace?
Yes, I did. After my social work qualification, while I was studying social work, I did my internship, and then I was a social auxiliary worker, and I got a job at the same organization as a social worker. Thereafter, I moved to the Department of Social Development, and I've been there for the last 13 years working as a social worker in the field of statutory work.
So, what is the role of a social worker in South Africa? Because here, I know about the social workers. What are the role of a social worker in South Africa?
Social workers fit many roles, from school based social workers, social work in hospitals, clinical social workers, social workers in the workplace for employment, wellness, etc. So, my job is the protection of children, where I do foster care, children's homes, places of safety, etc., to be able to ensure that the best interest of a child is met. And here we can also do social work for the aged, and you do get social workers for the disabled. However, I must say that I think the knowledge and the modules done in social work does not do justice to equip social workers on how to assist persons with disabilities.
The social worker has to visit um, people at homes as well, if
Yes,
needed.
yes. We do home visits, we do court, we do panels. So, yes, we are very mobile, or supposed to be very mobile.
Can you take us on journey of the first position you held on the uh, on, until today?
Okay, so that was the working at the Department of Social Development. Um, they also did not know much about disability and how to support, but what I've noticed is if you speak up and you say what you need and how you need it, they're very accommodating. I received tools of trade, a laptop, JAWS, screen reading software, scanners, things like that. They allocated an assistant, a social auxiliary worker to help me as well as to drive me around. So I have flourished a lot in the position that I am in.
So they provided all the equipment that you required.
Yes, they did. Sometimes there are
Did you?
challenges because, like, the documents are not accessible because of the way it's been formatted, etc. But you find a way around it.
So the screen reader, did you learn it during your school age?
Yes, I did.
So how did you find? Did you ever use Supernova, or you have always used JAWS?
I've used JAWS and I've used NVDA. Those are about the only two that I've used.
So these softwares are very costly. So you didn't have to pay any
No,
of any of the software for any of the software.
no. NVDA is free, but JAWS, the department paid for it for me to use it at work.
Okay. So number 10. Well, you already mentioned about what does your current job entail?
Yes, as I said, I do foster care. So I do home visits, school visits. I go to court to ensure that there's valid court orders for children that are being placed in foster care. And yeah, that's what I do on a daily basis.
So when you visit, uh, does the department provide a transport for you to travel to visit people's home?
Yes, I have a social auxiliary worker that will book a car from the government and we will go together on the home visit. They will go in with me, and if I'm not taking notes, they will take notes. They will look at the surroundings, the neatness, the all of that stuff. If I'm interviewing a child, they will look at the body language of the child, and I will
Right.
conduct the interview. So it becomes teamwork.
So they make notes for you, or you make your note yourself in Braille.
Sometimes I make the notes. I sometimes use a slate and stylus. Other times I use my Braille Note Touch Plus, the electronic device. Otherwise, they take the notes for me and they just read it to me afterwards, depending on what the situation is and what area we are going to.
Uh, yeah. Tell me about your last qualification.
I just graduated with my master's in law, specializing in disability rights.
I've got a call. Uh, Hello, hello,
Hi. Hi.
hello.
Is this Imtiaz?
Yes.
Oh, I have a question for Maimuna.
Can I ask your name, please?
My name is Nafisa.
Okay. What is the question?
Okay, my question is to Maimuna, right? You come across as an extremely motivated person, right? With lots of accomplishment. Can I just ask you, where do you get your drive from? What gets you motivated to keep going despite the challenges you faced? Maimuna, can you hear me?
Mamana, Nafiza asking
Hello?
you, can you
Yes.
hear her?
Yes, I can hear her. I think the
She,
support, the
Can you hear?
support that I get from, yes, I can. The support that I get from family and friends, as well as just starting off my day with um, prayer and just asking for guidance from above helps me a lot through everything that I do. You do get your times where you do feel down and stuff, but you also need to realize, or this is what I realized, is that if I'm going to feel down all the time, the world is just going to go around me. Nobody's going to stop and wait until you decide to pick yourself up. So you just got to pick yourself up and find a way to overcome what challenge you are facing at that moment. Because as much as my disability can be seen, I believe that each and every one of us has some sort of disability or some sort of challenge it might be hidden, but we all are dependent on each other sometime in our lives, and we all need to pull strength from each other and from the Almighty.
Is that okay, Nafisa? I think she's gone. Well, thank you for your question. You must be watching the program. So the next question I have is, did I, what was, let me go to the, is there a variety of options available for disabled individuals in South Africa?
Variety
South
of
African
options for
workspace.
what?
Workspace.
For
South African
workspace.
workspace. Yeah.
I think many people with disabilities go into certain fields that are seemed to be more in the space of disability, like call center, massage, um, and things like that. But you do get a handful of people that will go into social work, law, education, economics, and then you'll get your very few that will go into like your accounting, your actuarial stuff like that. But I guess it depends on the person with a disability on how they're going to get into the field of study that they would like to do, and how they're going to accomplish it, with what support is needed. Because as much as we might have 5 people with a visual impairment, each person's need is different.
And so next question is, what are the main challenges facing disabled individuals in South Africa workplace?
From the point of recruitment right through to getting employed, interview, reasonable accommodation, access to information, all of it has some sort of challenge. And this was what my thesis was about, about enhancing workplace performance for persons with disabilities in South Africa. Our policies are really, really robust, but putting those policies into practice and implementing it, there's a huge gap, and that's what causes a lot of challenges. Maybe, for example, the website is not accessible, or you get to an interview and you need to fill in a form before the interview and there's no electronic means. Or, okay, you get employed, they knew you have a disability, but there's no tools of trade. Or they do it for what do you call this, for compliance, to say we have employed persons with disabilities, but it's not necessarily always accommodating and inclusive for that person with a disability. So every stage of the employment process, from the beginning right through, I think even people that retire or go on pension might have challenges because of the administration behind the employment situation.
Yeah, you mentioned about accessibility. Can you explore a bit more on the in terms of accessibility, accessing into the buildings, hospitals, or government buildings, or the supermarkets? How accessible all those venues are?
Over the years, they've been moving more towards making places accessible, but you do get places that are not accessible, especially your older buildings or businesses that have not jumped onto the accessible wagon to try and make their building accessible. You don't really necessarily have Braille on your products, but you are seeing more QR codes being able to be scanned for information purposes. However, I say this, the staff in different businesses and companies are not trained well enough to accommodate a person with a disability. So normally when I go in with my driver, and he will flag somebody down to try and assist me. But that also becomes a challenge sometimes because they don't know how to assist you if you're looking for a clothing item or you're looking for something in the grocery aisle. But what makes things better now is the online shopping availability for groceries. Clothing, yes, there are online options, but you still want to feel the texture and stuff like that. So I guess it's a very personal challenge that each person with a disability faces in a different way, and the accessibility of it also varies from person with a disability to the next person.
Right. Okay. I heard that you do a lot of voluntary work for blind people. How did you? How did that started? And tell
Okay,
us about that journey.
there's an organization that started in 2015 called the Garden Social Services, run by the Muslims of Tswane. And I got involved by, we opened up a home for children that are blind, and these children came from rural areas that families did not know that people that are blind can actually accomplish something in life. So at that home, we currently have 11 children. And then in another rural area, there's an empowerment center where persons that are blind sew aprons. When it was COVID, they made masks. They do pillows to empower themselves to sell those products and create employment for themselves. And then we just opened up another home in Johannesburg where there are 8 blind adults that we are moving towards skills development and assisting to try and empower and motivate and uplift their lives. So I've always wanted to make an impact and make a difference in the lives of persons with disabilities. And through this organization, Alhamdulillah, I'm able to do so.
So how far is Johannesburg from Pretoria?
About an hour.
About an hour. So do you
Yes.
travel to Johannesburg or do you do any online work?
I do online, and if I need to travel to Johannesburg, then I do travel when need be.
You mentioned about your master's. Can you tell me what subject did you study?
I studied law, master's in law, and I specialized in disability rights in Africa. So I did the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and all other policies and our Constitution of South Africa, as well as
Right.
the African Protocol to the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, so that we are able to use our policies to enhance the lives of persons with disabilities.
So first you're working as a social worker. Why have you chosen to study law?
Um, I think it's an interesting field, and by starting off with a person with a disability, looking at the human rights aspect allows us to move from a medical model and a social model more to a human rights model, giving people with disabilities more access to what they can and can't do and what they have or they're entitled to do, to be able to say that they are also able to fit into society.
So is it not difficult to when you are actually representing somebody in court and you have to study the complete law and do you have to remember so much? How can you manage that?
So, with regard to disability rights in Africa, it's more a consultative role that I would play. So, I would not represent someone in court, but in my social work capacity, yes, I do represent people in court, specifically children. And we make notes. So, I make notes as well as my assistant has my hard copy report in front of her. So if I need to make reference to, for example, the Children's Act, then I will tell her on what page and she would read it out to the magistrate of the court.
So I think you need to have a very sharp memory. If if you can't see, then you must have a very sharp memory to remember most of the cases.
I think a sharp memory and a systematic way of working so that you are able to make it easier for you and you don't come across as an incompetent person, because otherwise it's going to be like, oh, see, she's disabled and she can't do it. And then that narrows your chances of actually competing with an able bodied person in the job market.
And we are running out of time. Only a few more minutes. What are your hobbies? What do you do in your on time when you are not working?
I love reading, so I listen to electronic books, but not the audio books itself, just electronic books like your EPUB and that. I enjoy cooking sometimes, baking, and I do a lot of craft activities with my daughter.
So you do some cooking as well?
Yes, I do.
How do you find cooking? Is it difficult?
No, my mom has definitely equipped me with the necessary skills to be able to ensure that I practice safety, but also at the same time understand what I want to make and how I can find a way to make it easy for me to be able to cook.
So how do you carry out your daily activities?
Would you like a rundown of my day?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I get my daughter ready for school. The driver comes, I drop her at school. He drops me at work. He comes back, he picks her up from school, drops her at madrasa, comes back, fetches her from madrasa, fetches me from work. Then we come home, and then it's family time. And if there needs to be cooking done, I have a very supportive family, so they live nearby. So I sometimes go to them, if not all the time. We then do homework. So I'll sit with my daughter and she will read to me what homework she has, and I will sit with her, ensure that she does her homework finish. And then we just spend some time, quality time, doing whatever we need to do for the day. And then the time is up.
So how old is your daughter?
8.
And does she help you in any way?
Yes, she does. She's like my eyes from most of the time, and we do a lot of things together. If we travel together. If we go out, we go out. So from a young age, she was able to read and understand disability as well as visual impairment specifically. And to her, it's part of her normal life.
Okay, and because we're running out of the time and we have only a couple of minutes, do you have any other message that you would like to convey to our viewers?
Disability is not an inability, and we cannot hide behind the fear of not knowing. So, like we would take any task or any topic and learn about it, feel free to ask the person with a disability what their need is or how you can assist them or get to know them before you just judge a person based on disability where it becomes an inability. And for persons with disabilities, it's good to dream, but we need to live our dreams and not dream our way to live, because the world is going to go around us. I always use this example about a pot of rice. And I always ask when I do speaking events, public speaking, motivational speaking, when I do actively engage, I always ask, how do you make rice? Some people say they make in a microwave, some people say in a pressure cooker, some people say on a stove, some people say they put the water first, then the rice, etc. But at the end of the day, we all get rice. So all of us have some sort of disability or challenge in life, and we all do something in a different way, but we get the same
Yeah.
results. So we do not need to look at the process on how we got there, but the end result, and that people with disabilities are capable if they are given the chance and given the support that's needed.
That's a very powerful message at the end. And I'm afraid that our time is up now. I have to wind up the program. Thank you very much for joining me from the South Africa. And I hope many of your friends and families will have may have watched the program, and they'll give you the feedback what they how they have seen you on the TV screen. This program is being watched all over the world, and I hope many of your friends and families have watched it today. Thank you again for joining me. I hope in future we may have, I may invite you again for another on a different topic. Thank you again, and viewers, thank you for watching the program, and I will again, inshallah, meet you with another guest in the future. So today, just Allah Hafiz from me.